Hey everyone, this is David Chen from /film.com and the /filmcast, and I wanted to share my thoughts with you on Clint Eastwood's newest film, Sully.
Cactus 1549, runway 4, clear for takeoff.
Sully. Sully. Sully, we're too low. Sully. Sully. Sully, where are you?
No one warned us. No one said you were going to lose both engines at a lower altitude than any jet in history. This was dual engine loss at 2,800 feet, followed by an immediate water landing with 155 souls on board. No one has ever trained for an incident like that.
I should mention before I get into this video review, I'm going to spoil real-life developments that occurred with this story, so if you want to go into the movie completely fresh, best to just skip this video review. Sully tells the story of what happened with U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on January 15th of 2009, when pilot Chesley Sullenberger, aka Sully, was forced to make a water landing on the Hudson River. Now, this movie has a lot of things going for it. Firstly, it has an amazing cast. You got people like Tom Hanks, you got people like Aaron Eckhart, Laura Linney, just spectacular talent, and doing a pretty good job with their performances here in this film. And I do also want to mention that this movie has a spectacular sequence in the middle of the film that basically recreates the morning of January 15th, 2009. Even though I already knew the ending, I was still on the edge of my seat. So that sequence alone almost makes the film worth watching and buying a ticket for this weekend.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds. We've lost thrust on both engines. We are turning back towards LaGuardia.
Which engine did you lose?
Both engines. Ignition.
Thrust levers confirm idle.
Idle.
Cactus 1549, if we can get it for you, do you want to try to land runway 13?
We are unable. We may end up in the Hudson.
It's going to be left traffic, runway 31.
Unable.
Okay, what do you need to land?
Unfortunately, the rest of the film is only okay, and the question that I was struggling to answer throughout this movie is, what is this movie about? It could have been about a lot of things. It could have been about the heroism of New Yorkers in a difficult situation. It could have been about one person's struggle against the onslaught of media attention that occurred after doing something heroic in our modern internet era. Ostensibly, the movie is about Sully's quest to clear his name because people from the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, doubt that the water landing was actually necessary. And so he needs to prove that he and his co-pilot were acting with the best interests of the passengers in mind versus just being incompetent or doing something stupid. That's how the movie begins, is it starts after the accident, and then you kind of like flash back towards things that happened that led up to the accident. The problem is that it only really gestures at any of those things that I just mentioned. It doesn't fully explore them in depth. So you get hints of what it must have been like to go through this investigation. You get hints of the heroism of New Yorkers. You get hints of how oppressive the media spotlight is after a major world event like this. But that's all they are. They're just hints, they're just gestures, they're nothing really substantial. And so what you end up with is an okay movie that has one spectacular sequence and some decent performances. Now again, the movie does have a few things to recommend it. Like I said, that spectacular bravura sequence that happens on the Hudson, the performances are solid, the cinematography is amazing. I mean, it just looks so good. And Clint Eastwood does a few other things that are kind of interesting too. Like he is really good at isolating these like specific kind of side characters and giving them really lovely moments in the film, like the air traffic controller on that day and what that person went through. He's also really good at bringing to life these communities of people that we would normally not otherwise have access to, like the community of pilots, the community of first responders, the community of safety board people. All these communities are kind of depicted in the film, and you kind of get a really interesting taste of what it must be like to be a part of these groups. But aside from that, There's not enough here that make this movie worth recommending for you to see on opening weekend. I would say that it's definitely worth checking out for the plane landing sequence, but you can do that probably later when this movie hits television or video on demand. So anyway, I wish the movie had been more substantial. I wish it had been about something, but unfortunately it left me a little bit disappointed. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Sully. Feel free to leave them in the comments. If you like this video, feel free to give me a like or a subscribe, and you can find me on /film.com as well as all these other places.